Wait for it. Oh, it was nearly going to be next week's stream, wasn't it?
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Ian there. Oh, I was just because you were in the band has covered the stuff that he's not allowed to show us in the background. Ian has covered the stuff, and my word, we've having a good look at it before we started, and it's very dull.
That cloth won't catch on fire, will it?
Oh yes. And there we go. There's the lights out. That was going to happen.
Mood lighting, Gary. Well, this is very subdued.
Mood lighting, indeed. Hang on a minute. Let's go to South African primary lighting systems.
From the darkest depths of the internet.
This is real. I built this. This is real. This was not fake. This is a real thing. I'm gonna try and fly.
Does it fly though? Have you flown?
I haven't tried. I don't. It genuinely, that 1.2 kilos wasn't a lie.
Have you got a long enough extension lead for the fan?
It's gonna need. It clears all the props to go. So there will be a video of this going if it will take off. I've got another troll to do on that.
Gyroscopic precision. That's all I have to say about that big fan on the top.
But yeah, I did go as far as building it. So I had a very different video I was going to put out, and I had that on the end of it, and I just thought, nah, I'll just put that out instead. So
no, then Google banned it for nudity.
Again.
Release day views, Bruce, on that video.
The naked facts.
I don't care what happens now. I've had release day views on that video. I don't care anymore. Sod everything else. There is an argument. That's probably one of my best performing videos. It's funny. It's like your plain one, Bruce. You know, nothing like that. That hit, you know, you got million views. But it's funny, isn't it? Something you just think you put out, you don't realize it'll get some people wound up, or, you know, it did like 10K views really quickly. I was like, wow, people like that. That's quite funny.
Your
like
Aeroscope video was great, and you are re-uploading a version because you did assume that people knew what Aeroscope was. That was
I missed an opportunity.
With that one.
And the video was done. It was one I've been planning for a while. I think I mentioned it on here. I think I mentioned it offline a while ago, didn't I, Gary? That it needs to be done, and I've been waiting for some things to come into play. The people who own the images and stuff like that, and I did it. But what I did it from was my perception on day one of I fully understand what Aeroscope is, and what I noticed very quickly was it went live. And there was a very quick number of comments going, "This is great, but I don't know what it is." and I thought, you've got a very real point. And so what I've done is the original version is still up. So any links to that are working. But there's going to be another version now. I'm literally going to upload it. The problem is if I put it live tonight, I'm doing it out of season hours now. I don't know if I'll do it.
The box office won't be open.
Season hours? I didn't know there was an Aeroscope shoot in the season.
Actually, yeah, YouTube is very picky on the hours you upload videos, but I'm going to upload it on the stream. It might destroy my stream, and then I'm going to set it live again for people to see.
We can hope.
Nothing has changed other than the new edition at the start.
And it'll probably say, this video has already been uploaded.
No, I didn't. I didn't actually. No, I never did that. I just literally, what I've done is I've crammed in probably, let me just have a look. How long?
If I can't see the comments now tonight, because I'm on my phone under Candle Vision for the first hour. So if you chaps see anything in the comments that should be addressed, then just address it.
Yeah, I like this comment here. This one over here. Oh, you can't see it. But Ian's right, you know, because what YouTube does is it looks at the views you get in the first couple of hours and then decides whether this video is interesting enough to promote. So if you launch at the wrong time and because everyone's asleep, you don't get the views, it doesn't push you. It's really with so many factors.
There is. You've got to be very careful. You know, this is the big problem with, you know, I put that other video out on Sunday, which is, okay, I probably shouldn't go into the story on it, but there's a potential product launch around the corner, which I've been officially not involved in.
Is this a new Barbie doll?
It's the new Barbie doll. And I did a video on that and sort of talked around, really, you know, I don't know, you guys probably saw, we had Steve on here and I sort of ripped him a new bottom about 2.5 weeks ago. I've been very critical of Avatar. Bruce will, I said, don't buy it. It's a beta product. Yet all of these companies are still talking to me. I actually have Steve is still fine. I've had some back and forth messages with Steve over FR Sky. We don't agree on everything, but the dialogue is open. It's the same with Caddx and Walks now. I have a good relationship with. Yet DJI, if you're ever critical of that company, you are literally blackballed and cut off forever. And that is the position I'm now in. And that is what it is. But I had put a video together just talking about when making purchase decisions, you really should take these things into account. And whilst Bruce will know Caddx haven't been the best company in the world from a product quality point of view, but look, what they're doing is talking. And they will talk to you, and they will I ripped them apart, and their message to me was, please, can you write all of the feedback up for our engineers? You can't whinge at that, can you? They want to fix it. And the reality is, with the big 3-letter company, you don't play ball, you're banned. And that is what it is. And I did put a video together on all of that, but it really was 10 minutes of me whinging about being excluded. So I cancelled it and put out the end bit.
All of your videos?
Yeah.
That's even this one is every video.
yeah. But it is an interesting thing. There are companies who want to work with people in FPV, and I know Bruce has had interesting experiences with FR Sky in the past. I know, Bruce, they stopped sending you stuff, didn't they, for a period? It's funny how these companies who do get crappy, how it works out for them in the end. Because at the end of the day, we are a very we are a small community.
Yes.
And
getting smaller by the day, by the look of
it.
There are channels falling off the cliff left, right, and center. People are just. I think that the bubble has definitely burst on. How do I make money out of YouTube?
See, Andy RC's given up. Or he's giving up.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. I've been having a lot of messages with Andy in the last 2 weeks about some other stuff. He's a great guy. He really, really is. I've told him not to. I've told him to just let it run. Don't touch it for 6 months and come back. But he's done that already. And if Andy goes, it's a massive shame. A massive shame, because he's a lovely guy. He really, really is.
You can just let it run just walk away and then walk back in again.
I do understand. It's stressful if you do nothing, and it's stressful to do, because the comments are still there. The feedback is still there. Frankly, the arseholes, the difficulty. It's hard at times.
We're still here.
It's hard at times not to look at something and think, you know what, not to feel bad about it. Someone says you've done a crap job, or you've done this, or you're wrong, and you've got to have thick skin.
Now you know how DJI feels.
There you go.
I get loads of hate, and I just don't care. We
shall ramp up the hate for you.
Here's the other problem, and I put this post up, and I don't know if Bruce saw it. YouTube is part of the problem. You don't post anything for 3 weeks and go onto the app. They tell you how bad everything is going for you. You go into the app and they'll say, your views are down. Everything's going wrong. It's not helping people's mental health. It really isn't.
Especially when they prioritize all the fluff and the lightweight stuff and the shorts and things over the good quality content. Sometimes I find it hard to find the people that I watch regularly, because my screen is full of shorts and things for weight loss and crap I'm not interested in. It's like they are really, really shaping people's view of the world in a very bad way, and we are disadvantaged by that.
Old, fat, and bald people. Yeah,
we must unite and rise up.
But on a positive note in that regard, I've stopped.
There's no room for positivity in this stream, Gary. What do you think?
No, that's true.
Ian has set the tone. We will continue.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I've stopped seeing those adverts for the world's cheapest, bestest drones, and it's now turned into you can make free electricity out of the air.
Yes, it's fantastic. Have you got yours? You need it. Look at the lighting in your house.
There is a lot of negativity, but there's also a lot going on. We've had 2 drone launches this week. We've had Autel put out an updated model, and DJI have finally released the Mavic 3 Classic. The drone, the Mavic, should have been from day one. It's great. It's perfect. I'm tempted to buy one. it's £350 cheaper for not having that camera that you didn't want in the first place. Now, how does that camera cost £350?
Well, all I can say is it's good for the UK and EU markets because the Classic is C1 rated.
Yeah. It's just a win-win-win, Mark, in every corner. There's nothing, unless you're search and rescue, there's no reason to go a Mavic 3 standard version. You don't need the zoom. Most people, it's the perfect drone.
The only problems with the Classic, and people are going to kick off about this, but they've already said this is not going to happen. They've said no SDK, which means, for mapping software, don't expect that to happen for it. So that's fine. It's a consumer unit. It's not aimed at anything else.
The daters are here. The dating spammers are here, Gary. Deal with them.
Amazingly, that came up. I can block them.
You've made it.
Yeah, I've made it.
We love you, girls.
Amazingly, and I know it didn't. It says no, I can't.
You should have made us administrators.
Yeah,
I made last week. I should have done. Last week I made other people that weren't you because I've learned how to do it, and those people aren't here. Oh, that's ridiculous! I can't. The only peppermint. Didn't I make peppermint one? Peppermint. Can you deal with that? The only comments that whatever it did, they made the comments come up. Oh God. Anyway, right. Let's talk about other stuff while we're here. Evening, Patrick. Dorovans is there. Excellent. Good. I noticed that some Skydio people are beginning to say, get ready for the announce, which I think is the 7th or 9th of next month. And I thought it was drone in a box. And one of them saying it's not another drone. So that's interesting. I wonder what it's going to be.
I saw that prototype box a couple years ago in Texas. And I remember the door was open and the arm was out. And I kind of bent down and took a look in the box. And that was about the time one of the guys from Skydio came over and said, "You're Patrick Egan, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, it's me." And I didn't say anything or disparage the drone box. But anybody who's operated in the real world or the out of doors, I don't think that drone box would have lasted too long in the real world. But
Percepto just got a BVLOS waiver for the whole of the United States for drones in a box.
Yeah, I looked for that in the Federal Register because, all you guys here know that this business is all about the qualifiers. Because, every day there's a news first drone to deliver a burrito to a guy named Pete on the east side of town at 2:00 in the afternoon, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to read their waiver and see what that is, because usually most of the time they're the extended visual line of sight waivers with the observer and all the rest of that. But I will say that, I'm always optimistic when I hear these headlines. Oh God, it's cracking open. And then you read the fine print and it's not. So I haven't found it yet, but I did find where Boeing is going for a type certification on their Scan Eagle 3. And I did post that, and I think it went through the Twitter. So if people want to read about it, they can through the SUAS News Twitter.
Gosh, that's been a long time running. I wonder which market they're thinking they're going to put that into. I wonder what would a Scan Eagle do in the civil world unless they've really upgraded the cameras and stuff?
BBD delivery, sealing wax, candles to guys in South Africa.
Here it is.
I'm jealous. It's
Huge cases.
We're going into winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, and I need a hand warmer like that.
Yeah. And this is just an hour. This is annoying. This is just an
hour. There are other ways to warm your hand, Patrick.
Hey, steady on, steady on. So that Skydio thing was interesting, and I've forgotten the other things that are interesting, and I didn't write them down. That interested me. There was a couple of other interesting things. Oh, well, we kind of discussed the aeroscope thing a little bit, and the fact that it might be able to see air drones policing and border security patrol. See, those oh, Mr. Ian. Aeroscope possible visitors AU. Sorry, off topic. I'm not quite sure what that comment means. Yeah, those it must have been the nasty comments that made the comments light up for me on this. But there we are.
Yeah, it's weird. You know, the info I have had initially is that Aeroscope cannot track DJI or at least see DJI FPV. However, I am getting contradicting info on that now. And I'm not
That's from
shocked.
David, who's chickened out from joining in. That's you, David. If you're watching, you've chickened out.
What it won't be able to do is track. It won't be able to give you the same info that normal DJI drones do because it doesn't have that info. So, for instance, it couldn't give you the home point because there is no home point on the FPV. It couldn't give them a current location, in fact, because there's no GPS in it. The only thing it could do is say, yes, there is something out there, but it wouldn't even know where because Aeroscope doesn't really have directional, well, at least unless it's in a ground-based or a network situation, it doesn't have directional range finding. It could just pick up. Could it pick up the FPV drone? Yes, absolutely. That's a different kettle of fish. But the standalone FPV, there's no evidence that it can intercept, that DJI take the MSP GPS data, if there was GPS, and push that out to Aeroscope. I don't believe that's the case.
Did there look like there was any hardware on there to, because I think you said there didn't seem to be lots of SDRs on there, but I wonder if there's hardware on there to decode RID. Oh, that's the other thing, the DJI
well, it's got Wi-Fi,
updates.
so yeah, it's got a Theros Wi-Fi. So, you know, it really is. The interesting thing about it is it really is a history of DJI's radio systems. And the funny thing is, I made a video on them last year, and it's just, you can see they've gone, right, we had Wi-Fi, then we had Lightbridge, then we have SDR, which is OcuSync. And all they've done is built it into IP blocks and just replicated it. The bit I almost missed was the fact that there's 24 of them. Because when I was going through the images, I was counting that there was 12 receivers, so 2 on each system for 2.4 and 2 on each system for 5 gigs. But then I realized there's a second board doing exactly the same again. So there's a total of 24 receivers in that unit, of which 4 SDRs, 4 Lightbridge, 4 OcuSync on each of the bands. And then there's an additional SDR, which we assume is used for communication between the Aeroscope devices, which would make sense that DJI are using their own wireless protocol to link the Aeroscope devices up, because they're not going to do that wired, are they? Let's be realistic. DJI have the wireless technology, so it makes sense that you could have 5 Aeroscope devices potentially 10 kilometers apart, and they will all communicate with each other wirelessly and create then a grid to actually track DJI drones in.
I don't know. What's your thought? That's a lot of processing power, isn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, it's and of course it'll all be redundant when remote ID actually kicks in, won't it? Because every drone will be broadcasting its position and the position of the operator, unless it's broadcast remote, the module.
I think the real advantage to Aeroscope, or the disadvantage, and users may or may not like this bit, is the fact that it will provide the aircraft serial number, home point location, pilot location. It will provide a lot more info. It will provide DJI very specific DJI info that you don't get. And whilst it's never been confirmed, my understanding is that you can get info from DJI on who owns the aircraft. Now, I don't know what that takes and what level of clearance that takes. That might be government only, but...
Or payment only.
Or payment only.
That's another thing I heard today is actually somebody put out a report. I think it was Assure. and they have traffic data that they purchased from
Yes.
aeroscope operators, which to me is kind of, I don't know, I don't like that. I'm looking, I've got some pictures too of aeroscope internals that I will tweet out as soon as I find them on my phone.
Well, that's interesting because that's a Ashore SUAS annual report, isn't it? That's just come out.
Traffic.
But why not? And I think we've got to sort of detach it a little bit. If we get together and we buy 66 aeroscope units, and we've got that data, surely between us 5, we'll find a way of selling it to a level we'll buy it, because we've got to recoup our cost. Is that not the problem? Say Aeroscope or DJI is a bit naughty now. It's actually the groups of users that have got these things. And I think Bruce said that there was a question about have we identified the people. I think we did, but I've clean forgotten what they are. And again, because I'm on Candlelight, I haven't got it in front of me. But yeah, isn't that really the problem? That groups of users, of wealthy enough people, could be gathering this data and doing with it what they will.
I think the interesting thing with Aeroscope is I've never had an issue with DJI selling a box that tracks their drones to the government. I don't really have a problem with that. What's clear is from this data breach that they have sold 66 units to a private company. That's not a small, that's a substantial amount of infrastructure that has been sold to one organization that was tracking drones, of which 56 of them, off the top of my head, were in the US. So one company was in control of 56 Aeroscope devices, potentially all networked together, tracking hundreds of miles of open airspace.
Well, is it hundreds of miles? Is it hundreds of miles?
Well, it has to be. DJI Aeroscope can do 10 kilometers. DJI OcuSync can do 10 kilometers plus. And that's the control link with video doing 10 kilometers plus. If you're talking about being able to detect and decode basic telemetry
just
data,
a signal,
that could be 20 plus. There's no,
Now, here's something interesting. RC Tom has said, and every Vista Air unit has to be activated via your account. This is a worrying thing, because let's say you buy yourself a nice little drone and you go and activate it with DJI and you put in your details, and then you sell that on the secondhand market. And then the person who bought it does something very, very bad, and it's picked up on Aeroscope, and the police will come to your door.
Well, the whole thing is a can of worms that I am just surprised, looking particularly on the Book of the Face, that people are sort of welcoming RID with where can I get your unit? Where can I put one to my when? And then I've seen people posting, but thank goodness, not everyone's going to have one of those, little ESP32 units to receive everybody. And then when you say to people, no, they just need their smartphone with Bluetooth 5, I think, isn't it, or Wi-Fi. And then they say, rubbish, that's not how it's going to work. You won't be able to see it with an app on a phone. It's like, bloody well will.
And more importantly, they're talking about the session ID being the identifier. No, it's not session ID. It is the serial number of the unit. So you can track an individual craft and its movements. And if you know that craft's owned by a particular operator, you can snoop on their business when and wherever you like.
And I don't know if you guys saw it. There was a video shared on Facebook this week showing, I think, what I've seen is the first official confirmation of DJI's Aeroscope live, not Aeroscope, sorry, remote ID on a Mavic. So it's the new update he's installed on the Mini.
Yeah, it went in that update, didn't it? Yeah.
And it's there. He's got a remote ID receiving device, and he puts it on, and it's boom.
He's selling them.
Yeah.
But you can't roll back. Once you've done that one, you can't roll back, can you?
No. Nope.
So
officially. Leave that to the community.
And as we've said before on this, what's going to happen to all those Avata flies when their remote ID kicks in? They've got to have a smartphone plugged into their goggles to comply.
Yeah, I would like to think the community, get myself more bridges buried under the ocean. I would like to think that the community will. There is pretty much every model has a backwards way of downgrading now. I'm sure there will be a way.
But the I think we've got to be a bit sort of we've got mindful of what that word community really means. There's people that watch the bigger channels like yours and Bruce and Sean's and things like that. They're a little bit more connected, but and our community really is quite small in the big scheme of things. There's thousands of people out there that haven't got a clue. They haven't got a clue what's arriving on their doorstep.
I think the interesting one is when it hits. The big one will be when it hits the ready-to-fly drone firmware. So, the out-the-box firmware. That's the big move. Today, anything you buy today, it's very likely it won't be on. If you just take into account the amount of time it takes to get something from a box from China. However, it'll be interesting to know, say you order direct from DJI, how long it's been in their storage and how long is anything that's coming off DJI's production line today, for instance, already got this firmware? Usually not. They're often, it's very rare the case they ship a product with the latest firmware. It's often the case they're shipping it with a version that's a little bit behind.
I just find it, again, the regulatory side of this is so short-sighted. And how the home built people got caught up in this, how your STEM people, the joy of putting something together, and flight people all got caught up in what I would call ham-fisted regulation. We all remember the 250 grams. That's just going to be for registration. Registration's going to bring in the climate of compliance and responsibility and all the best
all that education.
Yeah, all of it. And now, I used to say, you'd have to be hiding in a cave in Afghanistan to not know that there were, that commercial drones were illegal. Well, now I would say you'd have to be hiding in a cave in Afghanistan making drones for the Iranians to know that there's not rules for drones in everyone's airspace. So I don't really believe that, but again, what have we seen all of these years, Gary, since all you guys, what have we seen? It's always people trying to sell this drone community stuff they don't want. The Lance apps, even the Lance, to me, Lance came about because these air traffic controllers wanted to get paid. Oh, I got to open this up 5 miles from an airport, it's totally unsafe. The FAA tweeted out that they were going to do a video on collisions with helicopters. And I tweeted right back. I'm like, if you don't have the data to back up the scare, don't even trot that garbage out, because I don't want to see it. So what has happened? All of this stuff has been enacted on false scares.
But to be fair, police have been flying their drones into their own helicopters just to substantiate the claim.
All right, well, I'm talking about the hobby community. They have been, whatever, and there are going to be accidents or whatever. But we've been talking about the sky is falling and terrorism. What happened to the war on terror? We still have the Patriot Act over here. That's old hat. Nobody's talking about it.
Sorry, Patrick, but I think just about every country in the world's been left with some sort of act by a different name that's being used for completely different purposes now, but it's still there.
But if you look at it, if you look at it, governments have always needed a bogeyman. Back in the 50s, Reds under the bed, McCarthyism, that was the war the country was waging. Then when that sort of faded into obscurity, we had the war against drugs. Drugs are going to ruin our society and civilization. We have a war against drugs. Then when we found that drugs didn't do it, it's a war against terror. We're engaged in a war against terror. Now that war has subsided, the new one is the war against disinformation. And disinformation is whatever the government says it is. We're just creating a new boogeyman so we can pass laws and regulations, restrict people's freedoms and rights and privileges in the name of national security. And it's never going to stop.
Well, it's national insecurity. The hedgehog in the garden here are incidents like Gatwick, national news, and it's shut down for Christmas, and they hauled that poor guy and his wife in. Remember that? Deer in the headlights and the TV. And
yeah, but he was a helicopter flyer, but no one likes helicopter flies.
That's true.
Still, that went world. We got to do something. Then the FAA, oh my God, we got to clamp down on this. No data, no nothing. So many mistakes have been made.
That is definitely that is definitely on its way to being exposed. And the fact that an MP, an English MP, leaked the names of that couple to the New York Times. I think it was the New York Times. That was dreadful, and that sort of underlines that there was some shabbiness going on there.
It's all slipshod. You know, remember
the problem is, by the time it gets exposed, no one will care. It's history. It's like, you know, when the newspaper publishes something wrong, they put big headlines, and then when they do the correction, it's some tiny little bloody 16-point print on the back page, hidden under the you know, whatever obituaries. This thing is now history. People, oh yeah, they got it wrong. Who cares?
Remember,
so many people like us don't care. Yeah.
Remember,
here's what I would like to see. So all those things that they always get wrong. It's when an airline pilot goes at 16,000 feet, they saw a drone. That pilot and his co-pilot should be sent to Specsavers to get their eyes tested.
They're always careful. It might have been a drone. They don't actually say it is a drone anymore. It's might have been. Then the media picks up on it and says it might as well have been a drone. You know.
Exactly. So as far as I'm concerned, if it's not a UFO and they say it might have been a drone, as far as I'm concerned, if the pilots aren't saying UFO, then send them to Specsavers, because if they're saying it's a drone, or even suspecting it's a drone at 16,000 feet, they need to go to Specsavers. They really
I think
do.
there needs to be. We need to start moving to a point where, when those sort of statements go big, the people making it need to be under caution. Need to be under police caution, because they're going to have an impact on the people's earnings. It goes nuts.
Well, this is exactly the point. Those pilots should be held accountable for their comments. If they really say that, you know, because it's just BS. We know that a multi-rotor isn't going to be at 16,000 feet. That's just horse. You know what I mean?
Unless it's that special one that Ian's got underneath that.
Yeah, maybe yours don't, Mark.
Ian's got that special one behind him there.
Yeah, this will do. The extra fan is what gets it the height. That's what gets
just because it sucks itself onto the roof of your workshop, you can't get it down.
Sucks itself onto the aeroplane as it takes off and goes with it. Yeah.
Well,
very clever.
2014, I think it was, when Jim Williams spoke at the expo, and remember that he said, "Oh, you know, there's been a near miss with an airliner," and that story went worldwide. And people were like, "Oh my God!" Well, you know, the thing is, here in the United States, also in the FAA was like, "Oh, we've had all these near collisions, whatever." There is a process. If there is a near collision with another aircraft, you're supposed to sequester the crew. You interview them. You collect all the data. You look for the ATC tapes, all the rest of it. There's a process. None of that's ever done. It's just, okay, well, he reported he saw something, or she saw something, or whatever. So it's all hearsay, knee jerk, all the rest of that. I mean, we've all been doing this long enough that, remember, the sky was going to fall. You'll never get commercial insurance. The first accident, oh my God, the industry is going to go back under a rock, blah, blah, blah. All of these unsubstantiated fears that we've heard about this industry, as far as I know, have yet to materialize. And even here, everybody's tooting their horn, and when I mean here in the United States, about how safe the NAS is. You know, it comes to general aviation and home builds and all the rest of that stuff. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. So that's not entirely true. Now, you know, when you're flying on commercial airliners, yes, but whatever else. Anyway, it hasn't materialized. Did I miss it? Has it been in the news? Sky is falling, henny penny.
We didn't tell you. You've missed the memo. But, but the whole rule thing, did you see the tweet I put out on Twitter? I said that I was going to take a stand on this hill. Basically, I said, I've selected the hill from which to start the fight for the more sensible and reasonable regulation of drones and RC model aircraft. Is a visual observer really always required to fly FPV safely? Now, the Civil Aviation Authority in New Zealand responded to that tweet, and they said, CAA are the regulators for the civil aviation rules created by government. If you'd like changes to the rules, you could consider approaching your local MP. Well, as far as I'm aware, my local MP has no input into the making of rules, does he? He might be part of a government that signs them off, but the regulator makes the rules. So why is CAA referring me to a politician who just does the little rubber stamp when they're the ones that are coming up with these rules? There's a bit of disingenuity. I don't know. Anyway, they're not very, don't seem to be quite straight on that one. I challenged them, no more response.
No, but you know, it's I think there's also a breakdown. Things have gotten too big and too convoluted, and people don't understand. I don't know. Have I ever given the FPV history lesson from the
Don't
small
think
UAS?
so. I can't remember it. It's
All right.
history.
Well, this is how FPV got saved in the 11th hour. And what happened is, so during the small UAS arc that the FAA had and Part 107 came out of, last minute, there was going to be no room for FPV. They're like, that's just, you can't do that because you can't keep your eye on the aircraft, blah, blah, blah. And then so last minute, I tried to work something out with the FAA, AMA, and another guy named Scott Fuller. And basically we did right before the arc went down was that AMA 550 document. And everybody groused and complained and all the rest of that, and the visual observer and whatever else was in there. But the idea is that we left a foot in the door so you could still sell FPV equipment, still say you could do it, wink, wink, nod, nod, legally. I mean, I doubt that people that fly FPV really have visual observers, but it was a little bit of a mess, but it was 11th hour. The other one we did, and I found the paperwork not too long ago, and I put it on the SUS News Twitter, was the Category 5, which was lighter than air. And I forgot how far out that was fleshed out. And the FAA last minute said, we're going to drop that. It's just, it's too late, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it was really too late. I know that the bigger DoD vendors did not like the idea that you could fly a Sea-Star, FLIR Sea-Star Sapphire or comparable sensor on a unmanned airship, because then you wouldn't need to spend $40 million on a Reaper or Predator. Anyway, that's how the FPV got their left their foot in the door. And that's why, if anyone wonders why that doesn't really make any sense or whatever, it was all last minute.
Yeah, that whole visual observer thing, it's someone on Twitter pointed out to me, it's like when cars first came out, you had to have a man with a red flag. So when FPV first came to the attention of authorities, you need a visual observer. But we've moved on. It's 10 years later, and we don't see people walking in front of cars with red flags these days because we have looked at the data, ascertained the risk, and realized there's no point in it. The risk does not justify that measure. And it's the same with the mandatory visual observer rule. Yeah, sometimes you need a visual observer, but only when necessary to maintain safety.
In the UK, there is a little clause to that, Bruce, where if there's a group of you flying in a sterile area, you don't all have to have spotters. You can actually have, I think, one person. So at a race meet, for example, you are height limited to 50 meters maybe, but you're height limited and there's no need for a spotter because you're nice and low and you're racing in a sterile area. And that there...
Is that an advisory or is it in the cap?
It's, I think, oh, now you're asking, aren't you? I'm going to dig it out for you. I'm going to dig it out for you, aren't I? I'm going to go and dig now to find it for you. It's in the cap, and I think it might be part of Article 16, but I'll go and have a dig for you.
Well, the thing with it is the sky is falling thing, back to what Bruce has said, so it's been more than 10 years. And we knew that even in 2008 and 9, that people were flying way beyond, when people think of FPV now and what people were doing as FPV back then. I mean, there were guys, they had like the TV and the recliner in the van and flying out 40, 50, 60 kilometers, with big aircraft. And, FAA just put their head in the sand. They didn't want to hear about that. So there's probably a few people that this is really for. The visual observer thing, but I think it's time to start rolling it back.
I'll roll it back. I'll roll it back all the way to the aeroscope. And it's trying to sound like a DJ there, but if anything, the aeroscope leak of data of so many flights, not that anyone's seen it actually outside the people reporting it, but of so many flights and things like that, show how safe things are. And that's just from 66 aeroscope units and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of flights.
Well, Brendan
What is
admitted
the
that.
problem?
Brendan's submission on the NPRM listed all those millions of flights as well. Said that they've had this massive amount of based on DJI's own logs reported back from the. This is people that voluntarily reported to DJI. There was so many, and they worked out the ratio of manned aviation to unmanned aviation and the deaths and injuries and so forth. And it's just like, why are we even bothering to regulate these damn things? They are so damn safe.
Yeah, but okay, so even that data, I contacted DJI, and you're right back on the deal. If you say anything negative about DJI, you're on the poo list.
Oh no, Ian would disagree.
But well, of course he would, because he's kind of a naysayer. But I saw that they put out a tweet and they talked about they could go to the moon and back or whatever it was. Okay, great, but you have to break it down into something that I can use. So this industry is its own worst enemy, and I see it going with the advanced air mobility crowd too, the flying car crowd. You don't have any of your own data. You don't have it in some sort of digestible fact sheet. There's no concerted effort to take that information, which I believe a grassroots group, advocacy group that really wasn't out just to line their own pockets, could take to our elected representatives and go, look, I mean, this is ridiculous. Everybody knows that, we all know that there's an advantage to using drones now. They're lean, they're mean, they're green, all the rest of that. And we have the data to show that it's safe. Okay. Nobody's doing that. You don't see it. Do you see the Commercial Drone Alliance doing it? No, because there's no money. Who's going to pay me $50,000 to get them a beyond visual line of sight waiver? Who's going to pay Disney, who's going to do the waiver for Disney when they do their drone light shows? Who's going to, get Bear's business to do, crop applications? So right now, anybody that's making money on the drone commercially, or drones as a servicio or whatever, they are very happy with the status quo. I'm making money, you're locked out, and it's great. So, I mean, it's not even that hard. I think we're at the point, we've got the data. You could chop it around. I think we could change the rules. And I do think we need to roll the rules back. I think they were made poorly and mainly for profit, quick profit.
Yeah, you talk about advocacy groups, and we don't have any. They advocate for themselves. But in America, I expected the FPV Freedom Coalition to be an advocacy group, but their attitude to things like BV loss and flying without an observer is don't do it. Get a waiver, and then we can present that data as a data point. And I'm thinking, my God, we've already got the data. Go on YouTube. Have a look at all the people flying without visual observers. Have a look at all the people flying beyond visual line of sight. We have a mountain of data to work in this system. No one can afford to get these waivers. We're never going to get enough data. They'll say, that's only a tiny handful of data points. It's not enough,
It doesn't scale. And the thing is with this is, and we've all seen this too. Another thing in this drone industry is everybody's burning up the sky, and I'm using the DJI drones. People get into this business and bust out in about a year or 2 years.
Yeah, it's got a very high turnover rate.
Yeah, they're
very
gone.
high. Yeah.
So the new kids come in with the skinny jeans, and they're like, the guy at the FAA said, get a waiver. We're going to get a waiver, and then what we're going to do is we're going to fly around for 5 years and go out of business, like Precision Hawk did. Or Airware, or I could go down the list. We could go on for 3 days. So everyone thinks they're burning up the sky. The guy from the FAA told me if I just went along with this drone registration thing, or the repeal of Section 336, that's another one. It kind of sticks in my craw. There are people in this industry now that went out and advocated for the repeal of Section 336. Because they had a solution for a problem they needed to create. And this was all very easy and simple to fix. Just like we have Part 103 here in the United States, home built, you don't need to take a test. You don't need any aeronautical knowledge, nothing. Like home build my aircraft and fly it around. And if I kill myself, who cares? But, I could kill somebody on the ground. We've got, you got to take a trust test to fly a piece of foam around. Nobody else thinks that. I can't even think you can't use that word anymore.
And it's a test you can't fail.
Well, what's really it is crazy because here, paramotors, you can fly a paramotor wherever the hell you like and do what you want near us, damn it.
Yeah, well, almost. They can't fly. They can't fly over. They shouldn't fly over built-up areas, and they've got to stay out of controlled airspace. But
Okay, so there's two little bits there that they've got to do, but there's no official test as such. There's no CAA test, no airspace knowledge required or anything. And it's not, and there's no rating for them. There's no C rating for them, as far as I'm aware.
yes. And there's no remote ID for them.
Yeah.
No mandatory.
But they've got skin in the game.
Oh, before the drones were flying, when I was working for the Navy, we worked on an old line base on the border down there in the Yuma sector. And they used to ultralight the drugs in, fly them in, and everybody, yeah, they're out there, Customs and Border Patrol are like, well, since you guys have been out here operating, the activity's dropped off to zero, So I don't know if, I think we need to roll all of this back. I know, everybody loves DJI and loves the policy team at DJI. They made huge mistakes. And the problem with the mistakes made in the regulation on aviation is it's like Moses coming down it's chiseled in stone. You got to get the burning bush to talk to you again, to get something changed. It's crazy. But I do think we have enough data. If the community were to come together and people said, hey, look, I'm not just going to be out for me and I'm looking for graft and I want to be the drone czarina or,
Hang on. I've got to find it. I haven't got one because Patrick, you know the rules, Patrick. You know that we don't have
Red card
and things. There's got to be a red card. A red card for saying for common sense. We don't do that here. But come on,
you'll love my video. You'll love my video challenging the regulators to take a step back. You'll like it, Patrick. I made it with you in mind.
These guys aren't going to do anything. All they do, and people are like, oh, this guy is a jerk and he's mean to the FAA. Everybody that got bounced out for the Boeing 737 MAX debacle.
Everyone except people that should have been.
Yeah, and then what the only guy that's not working is Huerta because nobody liked that guy. But Dan Elwell's over at Joby. How do we just saw in the news that Joby's got special certification thing going? How do you think that?
No, they haven't. No, they haven't got it yet. They've got to come up with loads of paragraphs of how they're going to do it, and it is like each one will be 10 years. Each paragraph.
How good your lobbyists are. That's the only thing the FAA responds to. Get Congressman Bag of Donuts gets on the phone. What's going on down there? They usually shut him down.
I thought that special airworthiness thing was actually pretty bad news for the AAM industry because
Joby did push it back to 2025. Now you remember, you saw the video where I was talking about 2020, and Joe Ben was like, and the lady from the FAA was on the stage laughing, and I don't see type certifications for another 10 years. And then you're talking, or even if you do get a type certification, you need a production certificate. And then even if you get the production, who's going to be flying this stuff? What are you going to have, like the $10 an hour barista guy from Starbucks is going to be switching out the battery packs on the, on these AAM on their way to Glastonbury. And, come on. It's crazy talk. Plus, they give these, I will say that Whisk is a little bit more forthcoming on Twitter. I will ask, oh, yeah, we got 140 miles of range. Okay, that's empty. So under load, what do you got? Well, probably about 90. It's just not practical.
$3 per passenger mile, I reckon. Whisk.
Yeah, I seriously doubt. I'm just not in the. I'm gonna have to ask for a raise around here.
For it to work, it requires a market size that's greater than the total number of helicopters operating in the world at the moment already.
300 million passenger miles a year, I think they quoted by 2030.
It's going to be happening next week. So you saw this in the news where they were like, the guy with the the truck, the electric truck where they hauled him out, flim flam, man.
Oh, the one where they rolled it down the hill for the video.
Nicola, was it the
We're
Nicola
doing
guy?
the same deal with this flying car deal. I'm sorry, I want a flying car too. I do.
I do think
Well,
on some.
Patrick, you're lucky because in America, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you've got entire villages where people own planes, and they literally have these little communities where you land your plane. You land your plane. You get, and you can go literally into your house with it, or into your garage or whatever, your own hangar next to the house.
There's one right down the street here.
Yeah, here there's not the space for it. But urban air mobility is just a load of wishful thinking, because where are we going to put these things in cities? If a helicopter can't land there, there's no point to these places anyway, in my opinion. But cities already have extreme rules for helicopters. How's a four-prop?
I don't. This is another. So I don't know what crime's like in everyone else's country, but it's pretty much all I hear here: are police helicopters, sirens, and leaf blowers. And everybody talks about noise and all that. There's helicopters all the time. I don't get it. The other one that I think is funny is there's new battery chemistry coming online. What is that new? Lithium ion phosphate or whatever. Don't the batteries weigh like double what the lithium ion weighs?
Well, it's really funny here. So here we're just about to. We've now lost one of the biggest airports in the UK, runway wise. So Doncaster Airport, RAF
Finningley. Yeah.
Finningley. That's now shut, but that used to host a National Police Air Service. So used to host the helicopters and planes from there for the police service for Yorkshire, which means they've all got to find somewhere else to go now. So there's going to be some real problems. There's also a company that did, if there was like an oil spillage in the North Sea or something, the planes were all based there. Losing that airfield is going to cause so many problems. And it's going to be a shame because it's one of the biggest in the UK. If they lose that, I mean, it was perfect. But
what are they going to do?
It's perfect for building on.
He'll have houses on it. He'll have houses on it.
He'll have houses. Perfect.
And why do we need AAM when we've got the Hyperloop?
Yes, exactly. Yes. And the great thing with the Hyperloop is you can send your change as well and your notes back up to the
and the receipt comes back. Yeah, it's fantastic.
How's that working in Vegas? Do we know? Well, it's not on the Hyperloop, but
they're driving Teslas through a tunnel at 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, I don't know that that's practical. I don't know.
I ran a supermarket I worked in when I was a lad very well.
It's great. And a nice sound too.
Yeah, off it goes. But it's reinventing the wheel almost, isn't it? It's not new. It's not an original idea. What else? Oh, I know what I wanted to say on the regulation front. To go back to that was, and I've upset a couple of people on LinkedIn yesterday by just suggesting there's a picture of an ICAO meeting talking about certification and things like this. And you look at the panel and you think, I've never seen one of them in anything to do with RPAS aviation anywhere. Who are these people? And how did they're probably super qualified at whatever thing it is they really do in the grown-up world. But I've never heard of them in our world. They shouldn't be there making the regulations. Or am I just being naive?
Every committee. Almost every committee. I mean, what's on the DAC turned to the AC. Most of the people are on there. There's a lot of vacancies, and I will say that I have applied for community advocate. I don't know if I'm qualified, but we'll see. But most of the people that are on all of these committees, no one is really what I would say qualified. There's a handful of people I think on the planet who are qualified to address a lot of these issues, and not only just the flying car thing, but the U-Space, UTM, drone certification, yada, yada, yada. Small group of people who've been at this long enough, who understand the nuances, the history, the direction, the changes, things like that. And most of those people aren't even on committees. So it goes back to, again, the industry. The industry had their act together. And I'd like to point to AOPA, but I'd have to point to AOPA of years gone by. AOPA, the Airplane Owners and Pilots Association, used to be like attack dogs. You know, somebody get out on TV and go, well, you know, we're going to have to regulate the, you know, general aviation, or what, the phone would light up and people would be yelling and screaming and, oh, I made a mistake. And, you know, that's what we need in the drone industry, flying cars, whatever you want to call the new technology. I don't see that. So I just see us kind of chipping away at the stone. And like you said, Gary, ICAO, I mean, ICAO's been working this drone thing for how many years? How many years? They're just like parties.
Don't we now have regulations though on certifications, don't we? Or did I miss that? YASA and the UK, we have. So we're going to get even more from above, from people that don't know. Oh,
well, really, ICAO should be the buck should stop at ICAO. It should go the other way. We should get the regulations from ICAO, and it should work for everyone. It shouldn't be that there's a slightly different set of rules in each different country that'll make it hard. It should be the International Civil Aviation Air Organization.
Well, isn't that how it's kind of working in Europe? Is you get your smalls, and every country has their own regulations for the smalls. And then if you want to go big and fly to Bulgaria, then you need to.
It's changed now thanks to the YASA rule set. So any country that's in the YASA or EU, they fly kind of under that rules. No.
I still think there needs to be an objective rollback, you know, on a lot of this stuff. I don't know. I would think that a lot of these governments have chubbier fish to fry. I mean, I just think in my state, and we have all kinds of problems.
That also as again the aeroscope information, and just the very fact that people keep flying, and then people will be getting into the back of regulators' heads that, oh, maybe this isn't as big a problem as we thought, so we'll just quieten down on it all with all our scare tactics. We'll quieten it all down and gently loosen it up. I think might be the one way that it'll happen. I don't think knocking on their door is going to get us.
I'm still going in all guns blazing.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. No, nothing's gonna get rolled back. Nobody's gonna like, well, we gotta roll this. That's not gonna happen unless there's pressure to roll it back, I think. Or, you know, the other thing, what's going to happen, like, I mean, I'm sure this happened in aviation and everybody else's country, is it just got so expensive. I mean, general aviation here in the United States is on the decline because it's very expensive. And then, you know, just like you were saying with the neighborhoods that have hangars, there's a whole another subdivision, you know, 25 miles away, where it's a whole fly-in community. But to be able to afford that now, you've got to be a multi-millionaire. You know, back in the 70s, you could buy a brand new, you know, Cessna for under $40,000. You know, now you want one of those 182 1000s, it's $500,000 to start. So I don't have that kind of money, and I can't afford a hangar, and I can't even afford the house to go with the hangar. And Gary can't even afford to light it. You know how many candles you'd need to light the hangar?
And there's the problem. We just don't have the money to hire the lobbyists.
Well, we do. We have the money. There is the money out there. But like I said, a lot of people that are in this industry think that they have the secret sauce or the secret inside track or the secret know-how to, you know, game the system. But none of this is going to scale. I mean, the drone delivery thing, I mean, I know we've talked about it to death, but it's just like everybody, you know, they're delivering potato crisps in Plano, and it's mind-boggling. It's, you know, it's mind-boggling that anyone would still be trying that crap. And even, you know, Zipline. I mean, what's the payload on Zipline?
A kilo.
Yeah,
I think. I can't remember if they've got
Even that
multi-shot
much?
ones now.
How much does an artillery shell weigh? They can shoot those things 30, 40 kilometers
Yeah, I mean,
without a drone.
they want to, what do they have those? Do they have a mitt and cricket, where you have to you could grab the artillery shell. No, it just doesn't even make any sense. I mean, how much blood can you fly? Is it really worth it? Let's go back to the Chinese motorcycle. A lot of hype.
Yeah, you're right, because I look at the comments on that video I put up last, and so many people have hung up their toys. They've hung up their drones and model aircraft. It's just too hard. It's too expensive, and we're facing a huge crunch. We are in a worse position now than ever to push back because there's just not that many of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, people here. There's a million other things to do, and you're not going to have to jump through the hoops or get the. People ask me all the time. So, what's the new rules? Do I need to take a test? Do I have to get? Do I have to register my drone? Do I? It's like it's too much. I want to go take a picture of a house or something. I mean, come on now, this is getting crazy. So again, we missed out on the point of sale registration because people wanted to make a quick buck. There should be rules for the home built stuff. The new AC 9157 is out. I don't know if anyone's read the new version. The old version was one page, and it was like, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that if you're going to do this. And now it's like, all of these rules. And you think that kids are going to, kids that are like locked onto their cell phones and video games are going to get outside of the house to do something. I hear in the hobby community, they're basically just telling people to pound sand. They're not listening to any of this stuff. They're not complying with it. They're not taking the tests. They're not going to do anything.
What annoys me most of all is that they're all the regulators and governments now, or STEM, are right behind STEM. In the UK, you cannot get an operator ID until you're 18. I mean, really, seriously, you're locking kids out. And this is going to show up. Already we're growing out. It's going to grow out much more. I really fear for the state of this hobby in another 3 or 4 years.
But kids can still fly, Bruce, flyer IDs.
Only if they've got an adult who's willing to get it for operator ID for them.
Yeah, and who's going to find it? You can't even find an adult to supervise a kid.
Well, my parents would have been at work. They would have been at work. All my summer holidays, they would have been at work. There would have been no one around. I'd have gone flying anyway.
Yeah, but
they'd have been at work.
Any adult that looks at this, look at these rules, look at these potential penalties. Yeah. We're not going to let you do this, Johnny. It's go and play with knives. It's safer.
Exactly. Or hang out in the bowling alley and drink beer and smoke cigarettes.
It has gone, I will admit, it has gone stupid. I mean, I think YASA's even worse for kids than the UK is. I think their rules on it are even worse.
Well, don't ask what your workforce is, because you're killing it. You're throwing it out the window. I try and tell people, because they're like, oh, the drone thing. I'm like, what's really exciting is cobbling something together, and even if it's almost ready to fly, putting it together yourself, gluing it up, and actually crafting and creating something that takes to the sky. There's the magic. It's like, I didn't think that piece of crap would fly, and I got it to fly.
And every single one of us have gone, oh, it's not coming back.
No, I've never had that. I've had that. Where's the bin bag? I've had where's the bin bag?
Yeah.
Anyway, I got to sign off. I have another call, but hopefully now it's daylight savings. I'll be able to join you guys more.
Okay, man. All right. That's clock's changing. Look after yourself. It's probably as good a time as any to say going once, going twice. Because we've been here an hour and the power's supposed to be. And then Ian just went anyway. He took that as a going.
Rats are sinking deserting the sinking ship. That's what it is.
They are. Well, before we go, have you seen anything else this week?
No, it's not only is the whole thing shrinking, but it's getting a bit boring, isn't it? Nothing's happening.
Well, I think Donovan's comment mentioned and he's done it again, the Scorpion D. I'm not seeing every comment. I did see it. I thought it was a very tidy-looking machine, which was I think it was 8 motors in the end on the wings, and quite big. I think it was 75. Again, just making this off the top of my head, I think it was 75 kilos over 100 kilometers. Now that's a sizable machine. And there's also, I posted a helicopter tonight or today for firefighting That's based
But
on, I think it's
what we forget. What we forget is that all this stuff is irrelevant soon, because Elon Musk, with his robot thing, that will just sit in the pilot seat, and manned aircraft will become unmanned.
That's the Alias system, which has flown the Black Hawk this week. But we've no. That's reinventing the wheel, because they did that years ago. Oh, hello, has he come back? Let's have a look. I've got to do this. Oh, he's.
It flipped out on me for some reason.
We've got to stop saying what we said about him now.
Did the boredom filter kick in?
You know, it's weird. It wouldn't let me unmute or unthing. I'd mute it because I was doing something, and it just wouldn't let me undo it for some strange reason.
But now that feature's broken.
We were actually we were doing a wrap-up thing.
Yeah.
Bill Fly crash again, says RT Tom. Exactly. That was me from age about 8, I suppose, to 55 here. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think my parents would have. My dad might have done, but my mum wouldn't have done. My dad might have gone and got the ticket, whatever was required, but he absolutely certainly wouldn't have been around when I was flying, because he'd been working. So, yeah, that is so short-sighted. And again, back round to the Skydio thing, the fact that one of the engineers saying it's not another drone, I think it's very interesting, because it might be that they're taking their specialist ideas about not hitting stuff using cameras for another product that's not
robot dog.
A robot dog. Yeah, something it could be. Yeah, it could be a robot dog that's much better at not hitting stuff when it's walking around.
They're probably the one company who has the capability of doing something like that, aren't they? With their AI vision and all of that.
They need to talk to Elon Musk, don't they?
Well, as much as Spot and everything has been around, Boston Dynamics really have been more of a development. You haven't seen it widely. I suppose the kind of places it might be widely used we wouldn't know about, though.
They make show ponies.
Show.
Oh, what have I done to Gary? Look, he's plunked that thing to his forehead.
Right. How delayed is this? Yeah, no, you're exactly right. They do make show ponies, but those ones that stand up are pretty extraordinary.
Oh yeah, they're the end of humanity. Let's be realistic. Once they get sentience and they can build themselves, then if you mix that with Elon's vision of most humanity not having to work in 100 years' time because the robots will be building everything for us. Well, the robots will start building themselves, and then they'll decide that they don't need us. And then that's the beginning of Terminator.
Well, but Elon's helping people not work now, isn't he?
Well,
that's
he's
his
good
main
at
mission.
In Twitter, he is, yes.
Yeah, that is his main.
Although he is taking a lot of the hit, because I don't know if you've noticed, there's been a huge amount of people laid off in Silicon Valley in the last 2 weeks. Elon might be the public face of it, but actually there's talk of all of these companies being propped up on money that wasn't there. And it said something that the Twitter founder sort of defended Elon. He said we grew too quick. He didn't say Elon's getting rid of people he doesn't need to get rid of. He's saying we took on too many people. So, and there's been a lot of other companies. They think there's a mass layoff going to happen in the tech and IT industries. And perhaps this is a sign of that bubble beginning to burst again as well, because it's happened in the past.
.com too.
.com too. Yeah, there needs to be a punchy headline after that.
Elon is just the public face of it at the moment.
I wish they got someone prettier. Maybe a nice young lady would have been better.
Absolutely. We are definitely waffling. And the lights haven't come back on. They should have come back on. What's happened?
It's the apocalypse, Gary. It's the apocalypse. You'll never get your lights back on now.
I tell you what, if it was very quiet. If this is the apocalypse, I expected a bit more noise out of the apocalypse in this. It's rather disappointing. Yeah. Well, we had some weather the other day that was like the apocalypse. We had the huge hailstorms. Oh dear. Anyway, but that's another thing altogether. Going once and going twice. Any more for any more, everyone. Now, all right, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. We'll see you again 2100 GMT next week when we should have an update on the UK case. Our friendly tame barrister should be coming along, and we should be hearing.
At last, something worth watching. Great.
Yeah, exactly what councils are able to do. I'm surprised you haven't put a video out on that, actually, Bruce. Anyway, look after yourselves, everyone, and you, Ian. Take care. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. Now, do I have 2 buttons here?